Now, of course, you also have been very active in television over the years. Most notably, I think, with your own television program, the Ray Bradbury Theater, where Ray was executive producer and writer of all 65 episodes of your show. What are your recollections of making that program? You won 12 Cable Ace Awards in the process. Do you have a favorite episode of your own TV program?
My favorite episode, I got Peter O'Toole to appear on the Ray Bradbury Theater, playing the part of John Huston, and my adventure with him in Ireland when I was writing the screenplay of Moby Dick. So next time you have a chance to look at the Ray Bradbury Theater, take a look at Peter O'Toole playing John Huston. It's my favorite part of that entire series.
Of course, Ray has mentioned writing the screenplay to Moby Dick for John Huston, and there's so many memories and so many achievements in his life in our limited amount of time. It's hard for us to cover all of them. So forgive me, I hope a lot of you have heard Ray talk about his experiences working on Moby Dick. So maybe we could cover some new territory today, but it's a marvelous, marvelous story. It's talked about at length, if I may, in our new book here. Now, of course, here we are at the comic book convention. Do you have a favorite comic adaptation of your work? Of all the comic books that have been done?
I just heard this week, a year from now, there'll be a graphic novel published of the Martian Chronicles. And a year from now, there'll be a graphic novel published of Something Wicked That's Been Come. And right now, there's a graphic novel of Fahrenheit 451, which is very, very fine indeed.
Tim Hamilton, who wrote or adapted and drew that graphic novel, initially was going to be here with us today, but he has some personal things to tend to in New York, and he sent his regards. I think both of those graphic novels, if I'm not mistaken, will be published by Hill and Wang. Do you read comic books at all? Over the years, what have been your favorite comic books? Do you read them much?
No, I can't.
How about in the past, though? Have you read comic books? You don't like superhero comic books at all.
I collected them all, yeah.
But you said you missed the superhero trend because you were a little old for that.
I love Tarzan and Prince Valiant.
And did you meet Foster, the creator of Prince Valiant? You have an original piece of artwork from him in your den.
Yeah, I sent one of my books to Harold Foster, who drew Prince Valiant 30 years ago. I told him that I loved him, and he sent me the original artwork from Prince Valiant, which I have at home. It's beyond price right now. It's so beautiful, you wouldn't believe it. It's 4 foot high by 3 foot wide. Drawn by Prince Valiant way back 50 years ago. I love Prince Valiant, and Harold Foster loved me.
Something I've found out about him that I think is a life lesson for all of us is he's often written fan letters. I found a letter he wrote in 1938 to Edgar Rice Burroughs, asking Mr. Burroughs to come to his science fiction society, a club he belonged in with Forrest Ackerman and Ray Harryhausen and Lee Brackett and Robert Heinlein and all these incredible people. And he asked Mr. Burroughs to come out, and Mr. Burroughs actually wrote him a letter back saying he respectfully declined. He didn't like to do appearances. But over the years, of course, he sent his books to John Huston, and that resulted in his work on Moby Dick. He's written fan letters so often over the years, it's pretty amazing. I think you're the world's greatest fanboy. What are you working on now, Ray Bradbury? Do you have any new projects you're working on?
No, I've got a new book of short stories I'm working on that will be published next Christmas. The title of it is Juggernaut. a book of 20 new short stories, which you'll see published next Christmas. Thank you.
I think the title is very appropriate given we have the juggernaut right by us here. Many of those stories have been culled from his files by his chief bibliographer, Don Albright, and they're written, over the decades, so it promises to be a wonderful book. Well, without further ado, we have a microphone or two out here. In the interest of sort of getting a few people to ask questions, it would be nice if you keep your questions sort of concise and brief. So, of course, that Mr. Bradbury can hear them, but also so we can get more questions in. So if you keep them sort of concise, that would be appreciated. Hello.
Hi, can you hear me?
Absolutely, and if he can, I'll
All right. 11 years ago, I first purchased my very first book, which was Something Wicked This Way Comes, and I've been in love with Ray Bradbury ever since the moment that I read that. And I'm trying not to cry at the moment because I've been looking forward to this moment for 11 years. How did you come up with the concept behind that book?
Did you hear her question?
No.
Well, first she said that she wants to cry because she loves you so much. Secondly, she said, how did you come up with the concept for Something Wicked This Way Comes?
Because I was around carnivals all my life, and I fell in love with carnivals. It was only natural that I write about this. So that's how it happened.
He went back to his childhood love of circuses and carnivals, and mined his passions. He often says so much of his career is based on love, and I think that's a prime example. Thank you for your kind words to him.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Next question.
Hi, I just wanted to thank you for all of your amazing work. You helped raise me. You are one of the people who helped me learn how to think. Is there anybody in your past, you grew up reading a lot, who inspired you and whose work, perhaps having never met them, whose just their work helped you become the person you are?
He said that you helped raise him, your work helped raise him, and he wants to know who helped raise you. Which writers, which authors helped raise you through their words?
Edgar Rice Burroughs, his books about Tarzan and about the planet Mars. And the second writer was Edgar Allan Poe. He scared the hell out of me. I began to write like Edgar Allan Poe.
Thank you, Ray. I love you.
Says he loves you.
Hi.
Hello.
I'm a fan of your work. Last summer, the sci-fi author Harry Harrison, who wrote A Rebel in Time and the Stainless Steel Rat series, was given an honorary Grand Master Award at the Nebulas. He's a contemporary of yours. I'm curious what your thoughts are on sci-fi author Harry Harrison.
Do you have any opinions on the contemporary science fiction author Harry Harrison?
A contemporary of Ray's.
A contemporary of yours. Sorry.
He goes too far back in time. I don't remember him.
Really? Okay, thanks.
Hi, Ray. In 1964, I read your anthology R is for Rocket. That was the very first experience I had with science fiction. The story Frost or Fire particularly impacted me. And I don't have a question. I just want to tell you that I'm a writer. I have a published story in this magazine, F Magazine. This is my first published story, and I can't tell you how gratified I am to have your name in the table of contents along with mine.
Mine is also on there as well.
Yours is also on there as well. And both are excellently written. You're essay is about embracing what you love. I'm embracing what I love. I love to write short stories. Thank you.
Says he loves you. That's the most powerful thing you can say to the man. So thank you, sir.
Thank you so much for inspiring all of us here, as well as millions of people who cannot make it here today. But the question I have, as a local San Diegan, how did you get involved with designing Horton Plaza?
That's a great question. How did you get involved in designing Horton Plaza? She's a San Diegan.
No, because I designed a lot of other places all over LA, and 50 years ago, the people who were building the New York World's Fair called me in and asked me to be the architect to redesign the United States Pavilion. And it was a great success. And then I helped build Epcot down in Florida and other great places all around the United States. And then the people of San Diego came to me and asked me to have my input in building the center.
Horton Plaza.
At the center of San Diego. And that's how I got the job.
Well, thank you for keeping us lost. Right?
That's called from an essay in his wonderful collection. How many of you have Zen in the Art of Writing? What an amazing book. And it's called The Aesthetics of Lostness. And it's, yep, or Yes Tomorrow. Yeah, you're absolutely correct. That's a great collection of essays, Yes Tomorrow. And John Jardy read that essay and started working with Ray because of it. Next question.
Hi. Yeah, your stories are wonderful, the ideas, but I think too little is said of the quality of your prose. So much of it is poetry. It is sheer poetry to read. It's inspiring. Can you talk about some of the poets who have influenced you?
She commented about the poetry of your writing. Could you talk about some of the poets who have influenced you over the years?
The two poets that influenced me most was Shakespeare and Alexander Pope. Those two poets.
Thank you.
Thank you. Aldous Huxley, of course, told Ray Bradbury, "You know what you are, sir, you're a poet." So, next question.
My question is due to the longevity of your career and the fact that you work day in and day out on projects. Now, what are the things that keep you motivated to continue going?
Given the longevity of your career, what are the things that keep you motivated and keep you going today?
I have more work to do. I got 3 more plays to write. I got a new book of essays. I'm working on a screenplay right now. And so that keeps me going. I have work to do. Tomorrow morning I'll get out of bed. I will write some more stories. I'll write some more plays. I'll write some more screenplays. That's what keeps me going.
Thank you. How has your writing changed over all these years? How has it changed?
It's gotten more brilliant.
Mr. Bradbury, sir, it's been 40 years for me that I've been a fan, near enough. Yes, I am that old. I would like, with all the stories you've written about Mars, how have you reacted to the Martian landers and the other probes that have actually brought back real scientific evidence from Mars?
What is your response to the Martian landers landing on Mars, given the fact that you landed on Mars in 1950? How do you respond to the fact that we are now there collecting data and sending back research and photographs. How does that make you feel?
I'm glad we're doing that, but we should be doing more though. We should be going there in person, not just with the lander, but we should be going there with the real rocket ships and landing on Mars.
Amen.
A very funny anecdote. This man, a lot of people don't realize, has never driven an automobile. Yet last year he went out to Pasadena to Jet Propulsion Laboratories, and the scientists asked him if he would like to take hold of the joystick and drive the lunar rover across Mars, or the Mars rover across the surface of Mars. So while he hasn't driven on the 405 freeway, he has driven across the sand dunes of Mars, and they actually gave him a little Mars driver's license, which is the rover on Mars. Next question.
Mr. Bradbury, I grew up in Lindenhurst, Illinois, which is 2 towns over from Waukegan. So I just want to say thank you very much for being an inspiration growing up. But I had a question about an article I read a couple of years ago where you suggested that Los Angeles needed a monorail. And I was wondering if you had any other ideas or suggestions of futuristic technologies that you think need to be applied to our cities in the present.
He's a fellow Illinoisan who grew up very close to Waukegan, but he also wants to know about you've been pushing for decades now on a monorail in Los Angeles. It's very important to you. Are there any other technologies for our future that are very important to you?
We've got to build monorails all over LA and California.
Thank you.
And eliminate the freeways. The freeways don't work, but monorails will do the job for us. Get rid of the goddamn freeways and build monorails.
You also believe in high-speed rail, don't you? High-speed trains across the country?
Oh, yeah. Like they have in France.
Next question.
Hi. Your novel Fahrenheit 451 is a huge aspect of literature in English classes of middle school and high school. I was just wondering if you intended for this to have such an influence on the youth, or if not, who is your intended audience for that novel?
Fahrenheit 451, very nicely put, was the 9th best-selling classic in America last year. Not bad. On the same list as The Great Gatsby, Catcher in the Rye, 1984. She wants to know, who is your intended audience for Fahrenheit 451? Did you expect it to become this great world classic?
No, but I had a hell of a lot of fun writing it. It just came with its own spirit. But now that it's everywhere, I'm so happy that so many people love it. And I love that book too. Remember this, I am not a science fiction writer. All of my books are fantasy writers. All of my books are fantasies. But the one book that I've written that's pure science fiction is Fahrenheit 451. So I'm glad that I wrote it, and I'm glad that you feel that way about it too. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
He's often said that science fiction is the art of the possible and fantasy is the art of the impossible. So, of course, people would say Martian Chronicles is a work of science fiction. He would say it's a work of fantasy because there's an atmosphere and people are walking around without helmets and the mountains are blue. So that's hence why it's fantasy in his mind. Next question.
She actually stole my question.
Wing it.
You probably get asked this every year. What's your favorite novel or short story that you've written?
What is your own favorite of all your work?
Big Bang?
Do you have a favorite book or short story of your own?
All of my books are my favorite. All of my books are my children. I love my children.
Thank you. Thank you so much. We have a couple more minutes here, unfortunately. When we're done, Ray and I will be out in the autograph section signing copies of this new book of interviews. A lot more questions contained within, so we hope to see you out there. Next question.
I moved across the country with about 1,000 books in a U-Haul, and that was it. And I was just wondering how he felt about the digital books.
Get ready. How do you feel about digital books, e-books, the Amazon Kindle? Do you have thoughts on e-books?
I've already told you that. I don't like it.
He looks at them as books with a computer screen on them. He'd rather pick up a real book. He says real books smell, they feel, and they have memories, and the pollens of Egypt. He is a bibliophile.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much.
Thank you. We have one more question from Scotty. Sir, your question.
I can't say this in a Scottish brogue, you understand.
We need more power, sir.
Well, I'll try to give Ray all I've got. Ray, I'd like to know, and wishing you an early 90th birthday, what's the latest big idea that's inspired you, the way that you've inspired the 1,000 people in this room? What's the last thing that amazed you?
You have inspired everybody in this room. What's the last thing that amazed you, inspired you?
I'm working on a screenplay now on the life of the great cleric in Florence, Italy, 500 years ago, Savannah Rosa. His life inspired me. He lectured to people. He talked about the riches and he caused them to burn their values. So I am writing a screenplay right now, which I hope will be made to film next year. Savannah Rosa, 500 years ago, he fought with the Borgia Pope, and he brought down the good part of Italy to ruins 500 years ago. So he's inspiring right now. I get up every morning, I scream, and I yell, and I Savannah Rosa. And I order all of you right now to get the hell out of here and love me. Thank you.
Ray Bradbury and I will be out in the autograph area momentarily signing our new book of interviews. We'd love to see you. And once again, ladies and gentlemen, I wish you would all stand and wish this man a happy 90th birthday.